Ike and Obi had been friends since primary school. Not the kind of friendship that starts with convenience and fades with time, but the kind that grows roots. From the first day they sat beside each other in class, they became inseparable. If Ike was present, Obi was close. If Obi was missing, people asked for Ike. Over the years, their names were spoken as one. They shared books, food, secrets, and dreams. When one failed a test, the other stayed back to study with him. When one was punished, the other waited outside. They learned early how to protect each other. They learned loyalty before they understood its meaning. As they grew older, nothing changed. Secondary school only made their bond stronger. Teachers got tired of separating them in class. Neighbors got tired of seeing them together every day. Their parents stopped correcting people who called them twins. At some point, even they stopped explaining that they were not related by blood. They trusted each other completely. There was no fear of betrayal. No jealousy. No competition. When Ike succeeded, Obi celebrated like it was his own win. When Obi achieved something, Ike carried the joy like it belonged to both of them. They spoke openly. They laughed freely. They planned their future together. When it was time for university, nobody was surprised that they chose the same path. They both gained admission into the University of Lagos. It felt natural. Like the next step in a long journey they had always walked side by side. Ike chose business administration. He liked leadership and strategy. Obi chose accounting. He liked numbers and control. Different courses, but no distance between them. They attended lectures separately, but they met every day. They studied together. They ate together. They moved around campus together. Students quickly noticed them. Lecturers recognized them. Seniors respected them. Juniors admired them. If there was an argument involving one, the other showed up without being called. They defended each other without questions. No one dared to joke with their friendship. People said they were rare. People said such friendships no longer existed. Ike and Obi never thought about it that way. For them, it was normal. It was how life had always been. They shared plans about life after school. Jobs. Business. Money. Marriage. They believed success would come for both of them. And when it came, they would enjoy it together. What Ike did not know was that trust, when given without limits, can become dangerous. What Obi did not know was that desire, once born, does not respect history. At that point, nothing was broken. Nothing was wrong. They were still brothers by choice. And no one imagined how quickly that choice would be tested. Life at the university continued the way it always had for Ike and Obi. Classes, discussions, late-night study sessions, and shared meals filled their days. Nothing had changed from the bond they carried from childhood. If anything, the freedom of campus life made them even closer. But while Ike and Obi shared almost everything, there was one thing Ike had carried alone for a long time. From his first year, Ike had noticed her. Her name was Tina. She was not loud. She did not seek attention. She moved with calm confidence, focused on her studies and careful with her words. Ike saw her many times before he ever spoke to her. He noticed the way she listened more than she talked. He noticed how people respected her without her asking for it. From a distance, she became someone he admired quietly. For 2 years, Ike kept it to himself. He told Obi about almost everything, but this was different. He was afraid of rejection. Afraid of embarrassment. Afraid that speaking would ruin the image he had built in his mind. So he watched. He waited. He hoped. By his 3rd year, something changed. Ike realized waiting forever would only leave him with regret. He gathered courage one day and walked up to her. His voice shook, but his intention was clear. He introduced himself, and to his surprise, Tina already knew who he was. That simple response erased years of fear. Tina was calm, respectful, and focused. She spoke with intention. Tina carried herself with discipline, shaped by responsibility and purpose. She was not impressed by empty talk. She valued effort and honesty. Their first real connection came through a school project. They met often to work on it. Conversations flowed naturally. They talked about school, family, and plans for the future. What started as academic collaborations slowly became something deeper. They began to understand each other. They began to care. Soon, Ike and Tina were always together. They attended classes, shared meals, and studied side by side. People noticed. Students whispered. Friends smiled. Lecturers teased them lightly. On campus, they became known as the perfect couple. Obi noticed too. At first, he laughed about it. He teased Ike, calling it campus love. He reminded him that university relationships rarely last. Obi spoke casually, without weight, as though emotions were temporary things. He believed feelings were distractions, not foundations. Ike listened, but he did not agree. What he felt for Tina was different. It was not excitement alone. It was peace. It was intentional. He saw her beyond the university walls. He imagined a future that did not end with graduation. Ike did not say much, but deep down, he was certain. For the first time, Ike was building something that did not involve Obi. And neither of them understood how that small difference would change everything. Graduation came faster than Ike expected. One moment they were students, the next they were standing with certificates in their hands, surrounded by smiles and congratulations. It was supposed to feel complete. Ike had Tina beside him. Obi was there too. Everything looked right. But change has a way of entering quietly. After graduation, Tina told Ike she needed to travel to Togo to see her family. She said it had been long. She said she missed them. Ike understood. Long distance did not scare him. He believed what they shared was strong enough to survive time and distance. The first few weeks were fine. They spoke almost every day. Calls lasted long. Messages came easily. Ike held on to those moments, telling himself this was just a phase before the next chapter of their lives together. Then things slowed down. Replies came late. Calls became short. Excuses replaced conversations. Weeks turned into months, and Tina still had no clear plan to return. Ike tried not to overthink it. He told himself she was busy. He told himself love required patience. One day, Ike called her number. It did not connect. He tried again. Same result. He sent messages. None delivered. He checked her social media. He could no longer see her profile. That was when the truth settled in. Tina had blocked him. There was no explanation. No goodbye. No closure. Ike felt something break inside him. But he said nothing. He did not cry to Obi. He did not complain to friends. He carried the pain quietly, the way many people do when they don't want to look weak. Outwardly, life continued. Inwardly, he was stuck. Time did not stop for heartbreak. Service year came. Ike and Obi prepared and moved on as expected. Ike was posted to work as a financial advisor. Obi secured a position in a bank. They were proud of themselves. From the outside, they looked like young men winning at life. They worked hard. They earned money. They enjoyed the freedom adulthood promised. Even Obi believed Ike had moved on. But Ike hadn't. He smiled more, but felt less. He stayed busy to avoid thinking. He avoided silence because silence reminded him of unanswered calls and undelivered messages. He told himself he was fine, but some nights betrayed him. Obi noticed changes but didn't ask deeply. To him, heartbreak was temporary. Work and money solved everything. He believed emotions faded with success. Ike wanted to believe that too. He built his career. He focused on growth. He kept moving forward. But the wound Tina left behind never fully closed. It simply learned how to hide. And while Ike thought the hardest part of his story was already behind him, he did not know that the silence Tina left behind was only the beginning of a much louder pain. After months of silence, Ike had trained himself not to expect anything anymore. When someone leaves without explanation, you either break completely or learn how to live with the wound. Ike chose the second option. He buried himself in work. He focused on numbers, meetings, and growth. He allowed time to move him forward, even if his heart stayed behind. He told himself Tina was gone for good. Then one ordinary day changed everything. Ike was shopping, lost in his thoughts, when a familiar voice called his name. At first, he ignored it. Lagos was full of people. Anyone could have called Ike. But the voice came again, clearer this time, softer, and unmistakable. He turned. It was Tina. For a moment, Ike stood still. His mind refused to catch up with his eyes. She looked the same, yet different. Real, yet unreal. All the questions he had buried suddenly rushed back. All the anger he thought he had mastered rose again. He did not know whether to walk away or move closer. Tina moved first. She apologized. Not quickly. Not carelessly. She spoke slowly, like someone who had rehearsed the moment many times. She told him about her pain. She spoke about loss she never explained before. She said she lost someone dear to her and felt empty. She said she needed to disappear from everyone, even from herself. She admitted blocking him was wrong, but at the time, it felt like survival. Ike listened. He did not interrupt. Every word reopened old wounds, but it also answered questions that had haunted him for months. Silence followed. That silence was heavier than her apology. Ike wanted to be angry. Part of him believed he should walk away. Another part remembered the nights he waited for her calls, the plans they once shared, the love that never truly left. He realized something painful and honest. Despite everything, he still loved her. Love returned, but not the careless love of campus days. This one was deeper. More cautious. Stronger because it had been tested by loss and silence. They did not rush back into anything. They talked. They argued. They healed slowly. Time passed. A year later, Ike made a decision that surprised even him. He followed Tina to Togo. It was not an impulsive move. It was a choice made after long nights of reflection. He wanted certainty. He wanted truth. He wanted a future that would not disappear without warning. When he met her family, he spoke clearly. He asked Tina to marry him. Not with loud promises, but with intention. Her family listened. They asked questions. They observed him closely. In the end, they agreed. That agreement changed everything. Ike returned to Lagos with Tina, and wedding plans began. Friends celebrated them. Obi congratulated Ike, though something unreadable passed through his eyes. The past felt closed. The pain felt justified. The silence finally made sense. But love stories do not end where happiness begins. What Ike did not know was that rebuilding trust sometimes invites new danger. The same love that survived distance and silence was about to be tested again, this time not by absence, but by betrayal from someone who had always been close. And while Ike believed he had survived the hardest chapter of his life, the next one was already waiting. Quietly watching and patiently planning. Marriage did not announce its changes loudly. It came quietly, settling into Ike's life in ways even he did not understand at first. After the wedding celebrations faded and normal life resumed, Ike became quieter. He spoke less. He smiled less. His body grew lean, not from stress alone, but from the weight of responsibility he had suddenly accepted. Those close to him worried. Friends asked questions. Colleagues whispered. Some said marriage was draining him. Others said success always comes with a price. Ike said nothing. He had learned long ago that not every struggle needs an audience. For a while, he stepped back. He rested more than he ever had. Not because he was weak, but because he knew something many people ignore. Burning out helps no one. That pause saved him. Slowly, his strength returned. His mind became sharper. His focus became clearer. Then things began to change. Opportunities started showing up without warning. A deal he once chased now chased him. Calls came from people who never returned his messages before. Business doors opened as if they had always been waiting for the right moment. Money followed effort, but this time it came faster than Ike was used to. For people like us, success rarely comes quietly. When it rains, it pours. One good move leads to another. One connection unlocks 5 more. Ike understood this. He also understood something else. Success exposes you. Tina was growing too. Marriage gave her confidence. Not the loud kind, but the steady kind. Ike supported her ideas. He invested in her plans. He believed in her vision even when others doubted it. Within months, her business expanded. First one location, then another. Borders stopped being limits. Her name started circulating in rooms she had never entered. Together, they became what people loved to talk about. Some admired them. Some envied them. Some smiled while secretly counting their steps. Their success became visible. Too visible. At gatherings, people whispered about how fast they rose. On social media, their progress became a topic. Some celebrated them openly. Others congratulated them with tight smiles. Ike noticed it but brushed it aside. He believed hard work explained everything. But success has a way of changing relationships. Obi noticed too. He visited often, asked questions, laughed loudly, congratulated Ike repeatedly. But sometimes, his eyes stayed longer than his words. He asked how deals were made. He asked how money moved so fast. He joked about leaving his job to join Ike. Everything sounded harmless. Still, something felt off. Ike trusted Obi. He always had. But marriage changes priorities. Ike no longer shared every detail. Not out of fear, but out of maturity. Some things were now private. Some plans stayed between him and Tina. That distance, though small, did not go unnoticed. At night, Ike sometimes lay awake thinking about how fast life had turned. Just a year ago, he was healing from heartbreak. Now, he was married, wealthy, and visible. He wondered if peace ever truly comes with success, or if success only invites new battles. Tina sensed it too. She felt watched sometimes. Not physically, but emotionally. Conversations paused when she entered rooms. Compliments carried hidden meanings. She held Ike's hand tighter, not from fear, but from awareness. They did not know what was coming. They only felt the shift. Success had put them on a stage they never asked for. And somewhere close, someone was watching carefully. Learning patterns. Waiting for weakness. Because not every smile around success is genuine. And not every friend is happy when you finally arrive. What Ike believed was the reward for surviving the past was slowly becoming the reason someone else decided to rewrite his future. The change that began after Ike's marriage did not announce itself with noise. It crept in quietly, hiding behind laughter and familiarity. Obi's visit that evening felt normal on the surface. He arrived like he always had, confident, relaxed, and comfortable. This was his brother's house. Nothing about the moment felt strange. At first, Ike welcomed him warmly. They talked the way they always had, about work, money, old memories, and plans. They laughed about their university days. They joked about how life had turned out differently than they imagined. To Ike, it felt good. It felt like a return to something familiar, something safe. Obi watched closely. He noticed how Ike spoke now, calmer and more controlled. He noticed how the house reflected discipline and order. He noticed how success sat easily on Ike, like it belonged to him. Everything Obi saw reminded him of the gap that had quietly formed between them. Then Tina came in. She greeted Obi politely, with respect, the way a wife greets her husband's closest friend. Nothing in her tone invited anything more. She excused herself and went to prepare dinner. Ike continued talking, unaware that something had shifted the moment she walked past. When Tina returned with the food, Obi's eyes followed her without permission. Not briefly. Not innocently. He stared longer than he should have. He noticed details he had no right to notice. He told himself it meant nothing. He told himself it was just admiration. But deep inside, something stirred. Tina felt it. Not everything uncomfortable needs words. Sometimes the body understands before the mind does. She moved past him calmly and placed the food on the table. Her face showed nothing, but her instincts had already taken note. Dinner went on. Ike talked freely. Obi laughed when expected. Tina ate quietly, careful not to draw attention. When it was time for Obi to leave, Ike stood up to walk him out. Tina followed behind, out of courtesy. At the door, Obi opened his arms jokingly and asked for a hug. Ike laughed and stepped aside, giving them space. Tina hesitated for half a second. She hugged him lightly, the way respect demands. But Obi did not let go immediately. His hands stayed on her waist longer than necessary. Not long enough to cause a scene. Just long enough to cross a line only the two of them felt. Tina stepped back gently. She smiled out of habit, not comfort, and walked away without saying a word. Obi watched her go. He smiled to himself. It was not a happy smile. It was not playful. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered a dangerous desire. In that moment, something inside Obi shifted. The admiration he had tried to ignore turned into something darker. Something louder. Ike did not notice. He was busy locking the door, talking about a business call he needed to make. Obi nodded along, but his mind was elsewhere. That night, Obi replayed the moment again and again. Not the hug alone, but everything surrounding it. Tina's composure. Her silence. Her confidence. The life she shared with Ike. The success they enjoyed together. And slowly, a thought crossed his mind. A thought no man should have about his friend's wife. He told himself it was harmless. He told himself it was temporary. But desire does not respect boundaries. It does not honor history. And it does not care about loyalty. Obi had always believed he controlled his impulses. That belief began to crack. What started as a look became curiosity. Curiosity began to turn into intention. And intention, once formed, does not stay quiet for long. That night marked the beginning of something dangerous. Not because anything had happened yet, but because something had been allowed to grow. The line had been crossed silently. And Ike, the man who trusted him most, had no idea that the biggest threat to his marriage had just walked out of his house smiling. Obi had always been a flirt. That part of him was no secret. From their university days, Ike knew Obi as someone who enjoyed attention and moved easily from one woman to another. It was something they laughed about, something they never took seriously. To Ike, it was just Obi being Obi. But Tina was not just any woman. She was Ike's wife. The woman he chose after heartbreak. The woman who stood with him while his life rebuilt itself. The pride of his home. And that truth should have been enough to silence any wrong thought. It wasn't. After that evening, Obi's mind refused to settle. He replayed the moment over and over. Not because it was meaningful, but because it felt unfinished. The way Tina pulled away calmly. The way she said nothing. The respect she maintained even when uncomfortable. To Obi, her silence did not feel like rejection. It felt like restraint. And restraint, in his mind, meant opportunity. Obi began to justify his thoughts. He told himself Ike had changed. He told himself success had made Ike distant. He told himself that marriage sometimes hides unhappiness. Every excuse made his desire feel less wrong. Every lie he told himself pushed loyalty further away. The first test came quickly. Obi sent Tina a simple message. Polite. Friendly. Safe. She replied briefly, with respect. Nothing more. That reply was enough to feed his imagination. He began sending messages under the disguise of concern. Asking how she was doing. Asking about business. Asking about Ike. Tina responded carefully. She kept her distance. She answered without encouraging him. But Obi did not read caution. He read access. Halfway into the chapter of his thoughts, something darker surfaced. Obi began to imagine a life where Ike was not in the picture. Not physically gone at first. Just absent. Busy. Distracted. Out of the way. The thought scared him for a moment. He tried to shake it off. But once a thought like that enters the mind, it does not leave easily. That was when suspense quietly entered his life. Obi noticed patterns. He noticed Ike's schedule. He noticed when Ike traveled. He noticed when Tina was alone. He began to ask questions that had nothing to do with concern and everything to do with control. He smiled around Ike. He laughed with him. He called him brother. All while planning something he had not fully named yet. In the middle of all this, Tina began to sense something was wrong. Obi's messages felt heavier. His concern felt forced. His presence felt intentional. She tried to keep things normal, but unease settled in her spirit. She spoke to Ike once, briefly, but without accusation. Ike listened, but dismissed it lightly. Obi was his brother. He trusted him. That trust became Obi's advantage. By this point, Obi's desire had grown into something else. It was no longer just about attraction. It became about power. About taking something that symbolized Ike's success. About proving something to himself. He stood at a crossroads. He could step back. He could remember history. He could protect the friendship that had lasted decades. Or he could move forward. And Obi had never liked losing. The plan did not form in one night. It came together slowly, piece by piece. A message here. A lie there. A seed planted in the right ear. He told himself it was harmless. He told himself he was only testing limits. But tests have consequences. By the end of that chapter, one thing was clear. Obi was no longer fighting his desire. He was feeding it. And once desire is fed, it demands action. As Obi sat alone, staring at his phone, a decision settled in his heart. Friendship would not stop him. History would not stop him. Loyalty would not stop him. And somewhere else, Ike slept peacefully, unaware that the brother he trusted with his life had already chosen a different path. To be continued. Because the real betrayal had not even begun yet. Thanks for watching this episode of Brothers by Choice. If you were hooked by the twists, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Click subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 2. It only gets deeper from here. This is just the beginning. More drama, more secrets, more choices, coming soon. Stay tuned. See you in the next chapter.